Now you're live. Now the lights are in.
There it goes. Just gonna keep moving back and forth between my two chairs this evening.
We'll get through this.
Okay, liquor license hearing this evening. Application has been received from Richard Hunter Thomas, DBA Padrino Fort Thomas, located at 14 North Grand Avenue, Fort Thomas, Kentucky, 41075, for an NQ4 retail malt beverage drink, an NQ2 restaurant retail drink, and special Sunday sales license. This application's been on file actually since before the previous council meeting. I have not received any comment, written or otherwise, since receipt of that, or at least since publication. If there are any comments publicly, I can take them right now. That's the best kind of hearing. As you all know, this is because Padrino is actually opened up for dine-in service. So they will now be, or at least as of tomorrow morning when I send my okay down to the state of Kentucky, good to go for liquor by the drink. And that's pretty much all I've got. I can close this hearing as of, what is it, 7:01? Yeah. 7:01. Thank you.
All right, so we'll call the regular meeting to order. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Kelly? Here. Mr. Patrick? Here. Mr. Babbitt?
Here.
Mr. Beazle?
Here.
Mr. Blau?
Here.
Mr. Peter? Here.
Now, please rise for the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody, start out with approval of the minutes. Can we do them all at one time? Each one has to be done separately.
Well, I mean, I would like to request an amendment to the minutes I read from our last meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay. Where it went into the comments that I brought up about the deer ordinance, proposed change, I would like it to specifically reflect what the proposed change was, which we did enunciate, to change from a half hour before sunset to 10 a.m. to a half hour before sunset to a half hour after sun, or I'm sorry, half hour after sunrise to 10 a.m. is the original, and the proposed change was a half hour before sunrise to a half hour after sunset.
It's easy for you to say.
Yeah, right. So anyway, I want to be more specific in what my concern was in the minutes.
So no,
What was it in the minutes that you didn't like?
Just
so everybody's aware.
Just the omission of that. I stated that in the meeting. I reviewed it before I came here tonight on the YouTube video, and I did state my specific concern about the change in hours, specifically from a half hour before sunrise to 10 a.m. is what it currently is, and the proposed change was a half hour before sunrise to a half hour after sunset, and that was the reason for my concern in bringing this up. And so I wanted the minutes to accurately reflect why I had the concern.
Just one thing about the minutes, that we have pretty detailed minutes for a city, which is fine, but that's the only requirement for any action taken and votes in the minutes. So I know a lot of the other boards have questioned on getting really detailed stuff, but since that was, that's perfectly fine. I just kind of wanted to let everybody understand the minutes.
I understand they're not verbatim, but I thought that was an important point, that I wasn't just concerned over nothing. I wanted the minutes to reflect that.
all right, so then entertain a motion to pass those, let's just do them separately then. The minutes of the regular meeting
As amended.
as amended, yes.
I'll move to pass that.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in
Second.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now,
Mayor,
yes.
so, Matt's point's well taken, but I'm not sure we should approve something which might actually be out in front of us. It's a little different than a resolution, because there's always minutes that you approve late. And I mean, can you take a few minutes while this meeting's going on and,
It was recorded. No, it's on the YouTube video. It's recorded.
So you can't say.
It's, I mean, we post our.
right, but you're asking.
There was a general kind of gloss.
So I'm not questioning what you're doing. The point I'm making is, when we approve something, now I know your comments don't have any legal effect. But actually, there's Kentucky law that minutes, you know, as approved, are the final decision, so they have to be very specific. Well, we don't have it in front of us exactly what you want said. I don't really care what you want said.
Well, the minutes that were reported and presented to us to approve were not verbatim minutes either. They just kind of generally described what went on.
Well, I know we have them in our packets.
Okay, right. So, but I wanted them to also reflect the reason for my concern, the reason for my bringing it up, as being, you know, more than valid, more than, you know, so I wanted, you know, historical purposes, whatever, that it to be reported, that there's a reason I brought my concern up as opposed to just saying an ordinance related to deer hunting. I wanted it to be more specific as to why I would have brought it up. I don't think that's too much to ask.
I'm not saying it's too much to ask.
Can we
I'll give you
table
a
it?
point. We don't know exactly what you want said.
Can we table that till the next month
I
then?
mean, we could do that.
And then,
Ken, if you could give us the change that you want. So typically what we would do is take the minutes, we would strike out and make the change.
I mean, it's just one additional line to include the specific hours that were being proposed, and the change, and that being the reason for my concern.
Okay, so if you can take a minute, not minute during this meeting, and let's just approve the minutes at the end with your specific sentence.
Okay, I'll write under a sentence that says what needs to be said.
So I asked if we could take it to
so be it.
So the end of tonight's meeting, we'll then bring up the minutes for.
So we need a motion to table, can we just table? We can table.
Yes.
Howard, okay, I will entertain a motion for the other two finance committee meeting minutes.
Just to be clear, there's two, correct?
Correct.
And then the October 5th.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're through the minutes. Awesome, thank you. Down to visitors communication. The first thing I have is a proclamation. Whereas Fort Thomas, Kentucky is a community which acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when its individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas Fort Thomas, Kentucky is a community which encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas Fort Thomas, Kentucky is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas Fort Thomas, Kentucky acknowledges the mission of Extra Mile America to create 550 extra mile cities in America and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2022. Now, therefore, I, Mayor of the City, Fort Thomas, Kentucky, do hereby proclaim November 1st, 2022 to be Extra Mile Day, and I urge each individual in the community to take time on this day to not only go the extra mile in his or her own life, but also acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make their organizations, families, community, country, and world a better place. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand the 17th day of October in the year of our Lord 2022. Signed, Eric Thompson, Mayor, City of Fort Thomas, Kentucky. So, now I'll open the floor for anybody who wants to address council on an item. Please come up to this microphone, state your name and address, and what you'd like to chat about. Hi.
My name's Debbie, and I'm here, Debbie, like to say my last name?
Yeah, and your address, please, for the record.
Debbie Hamel, 33 Madonna, Fort Thomas, Kentucky.
Thank you.
Why not? I do not know.
There's a button. There you go.
Is it on now? All right, I'm here to inquire to the council about your commitment, and you used the word commitment and going the extra mile, so I'm going to hold you to those two words right there, commitment and extra mile, about addressing in organizing programs or events and having activities that actually address the health and physical well-being of the citizens of Fort Thomas. And a while back, not too many years ago, when we were trying to do the Fort Thomas in the planning stages, there was some brainstorming about what tagline we could have in Fort Thomas when we started talking about changing the look of Fort Thomas. And other than Let's Eat Cake, they came up with from 8 to 88. Fort Thomas has something for you. And that's a wonderful tagline, it's a wonderful slogan or motto to have for this town. And you guys, we've done admirably well for that 8-year-olds. And we've done well for the 10-year-olds, and we've done very well for the teenage age group in this town with having different activities that address the health and physical well-being and being in shape and exercising. I don't even want to name all those, but what I am here for is what have you done for your senior citizens age group? And I'm talking about even for those that are 60, 70, and this young strapping man right here who's 84, and even 90-year-olds. How are we addressing that age group, and what are your plans and commitment? What do you have written? What have you thought of for this age group? And I want to propose something that has been proposed many times here before this council, and so far nothing really has been done that we can see, and that is to address the area that is in Highland Park. That I do believe the splash park is momentarily off the table due to the swim club not really signing on to that. And I would like to entertain the idea about having that designated for pickleball. And I know you've had pickleball people up here, and we are kind of obsessed with pickleball, I should say. But I know that they've been up here before. But now that that area at Highland Park is kind of off the table, I would like to open that area back up again. And I would also like to address that I don't think you're doing well for the senior citizens as far as addressing their place to exercise and get healthy and meet socially. And I want Jim Dew is going to introduce himself. And I'm a pickleballer, but he is also an awesome pickleballer. And what's wonderful about this is because you can have 8 to an 88-year-old, and you can be out there and do the same activity. You can be competing or on the same team, and there's really no other activity you have here in Fort Thomas. Basketball, volleyball, I don't care what it is, baseball. You're not going to be able to have those two separate age groups being together and socializing and competing and exercising and getting healthy. And pickleball does offer that. And I don't know if you've heard of the news, but LeBron James just bought a pickleball team. So I figured if he can invest in it, so can this town. All right, go ahead, Jim.
I'm Jim Dew. I live at 1603 North Fort Thomas and have for 42 years. I've been a resident of Fort Thomas for 49 years. It'll be 50 in January. I have 3 children that graduated from Highland High School. And I played tennis here on the old courts down there when we had leagues filling up here. And before these courts were ever built here, I played, sat down on that wall, waited for a chance to play. And I've been playing tennis up here on Saturday mornings until about 3 years ago. I've been playing pickleball for 7 years. I played it in Florida in the wintertime, and I tried to get the recreation department to start the lay out the paint the lines on the courts, and they at that time said they were waiting for a grant, and so I said, well, you only need about $150 to buy a net and about $200 to paint the lines. I don't know why you need a grant to get that little bit of money. So, I've enjoyed playing pickleball here, now at the Town and Country over in Wilder on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And like Debbie said, I'm 84 years old. I play with people that are 91, 92, and I think that that area down there where the courts were, and then where we expanded the golf, frisbee golf, and we expanded the frisbee golf down there. But we could probably put in at least 6 courts down there. And if there's any more area around that I don't know about, I'm sure they can include that. So I think pickleball is a lot of fun for old people, young people, middle-aged people, and I encourage you all to come out and try it. Come up to the fort here on Saturday or Friday and introduce yourself, and somebody will help you introduce you to the game, and I'm sure you'll see why it's a worthwhile activity. So, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, just one more thing. We've been playing, if y'all don't know, we've been playing down of the 2 tennis courts that you have already. They're in horrible shape. I don't even know how they play tennis. I don't even know how the high school plays tennis down there. And I don't know, has any of the council been down there on those tennis courts? Anybody? Okay, they're cracked, they're horrible, they're uneven, it's just really horrible for tennis, let alone pickleball. So it's just really not acceptable. And the other thing we have to do is, we have to line every single time. We have got to get out chalk, little children's chalk, and we have to chalk the lines. And poor Todd Eager's been doing this, forever and ever. And so I just think, I don't know if that's in your comprehensive plan, but you're really not addressing that 88 year of your community. And it's just not a community of young, but it is a community of older people as well.
So Debbie, we do have 2 courts over here lined right now, correct? And you're saying that the conditions are bad?
Oh yeah, as I said, the whole area, there's 2 courts that are tennis. They're set up for tennis.
Right.
We come down there and we chalk the lines, or we have to tape the lines. They're not lined.
So the bottom court are not lined?
No, we go over it. We go over it.
They're lined for 2 pickleball courts.
Right, for 2 courts.
However, they have.
That's if you use the tennis
Right.
net.
They set up 6 courts there.
Yeah, there's 2
so
courts. If you use tennis nets, and we want.
By the spring, we'll have 6 more lined. And then we have 2 indoor courts inside the Armory for the winter. But we are looking for that. The other thing I do want to address is the Highland Park is not, you said that we're not doing anything there, and that's not true.
Well, no, I said maybe the splash park was off the table.
Maybe, but that's definitely
Well,
not
that's
happening right now.
swim club.
So, just so you're aware, we have 6 more that are going to be lined. We just got the contract signed for
You
that.
have to go down there and look at the courts. You got to look at the whole surface. It's horrible.
There was discussion, I can't remember what it was, but we talked about redoing, I have to refer back to the minutes for this. We needed to keep some of the tennis courts because of the high school. Yes. But we were going to redo some of I'm thinking the lower tennis courts to designate as pickleball, and we were also going to add another court outside where the wall is. That was going to be an additional designated pickleball court. Now, we have to revisit that inside the Parks Committee, because that process was halted because we were going to move that to Carlisle Park and talk about having designated.
On Memorial, right. And that's, I mean, we hate to wait 5 to 10 years, but the lower tennis courts are in horrible condition regardless of who's using them.
Okay, I'll take a look at that, Debbie. And if you would, you were saying that we don't have anything for seniors in general. If you could email me and let me know some of your other ideas. I mean, we heavily participate in senior games and things like that, but if you have other ideas,
Right, I
other
mean,
than just saying that we
compared to
don't,
what
that
you
would help
do
me
for
out.
the youth in this town, which is admirable and it's wonderful, but you're forgetting the other half of your population.
Right, so yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if you could get a hold of me and just give me some ideas, let us talk through some of that, and then we can probably implement some of the other stuff, okay?
All right,
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Would anyone else like to address council?
Nita Fetzel, and I'm on Bonnie Lane in Fort Thomas. And we've been discussing, but it's been on Facebook and Nextdoor and everything else with regard to the kids in the streets. Eric, a couple months ago when you were leaving here, there was kids doubled up on a scooter, and then another kid, not properly identifiable, zigzagging up through the exit area. I'm not driving through Fort Thomas as much as I used to, but I am seeing more and more, what little bit I am driving, of kids going in the wrong direction, unless something has changed. When I was growing up, it was bicycles went with the traffic and pedestrians went against the traffic. Scooters now go any which way they want, zigzagging through the city. And my big fear is somebody is really, really gonna get hurt seriously. And then the driver also will be affected by what may or may not happen, or to what degree. So I know it's not city council's responsibility to teach the kids, but I just want to bring it out again that the kids and as far as like on the scooters, there's supposed to be, I think, a 16 age limit on riding the scooters. Somebody put on Facebook or something. I don't know what the age limits are. They're younger than that, zigzagging up and down the street toward cars. I see it at the south end, in the vicinity of the Y, or approaching the Y from 27. I see it going through town. So I'm just concerned that we are, is there something that we can come up with besides just saying the teachers need to teach it and the city council needs to regulate it? Is there something we can do to kind of get the point across? I did note on Facebook last night, I think it was one parent that said she not only took away her kid's bike, but she took away the scooter because she knew one of the pictures was her child. And she said, that's it.
Well, that's good parenting. You
That
know, that's parents.
And
Parents have to take some heat on this, but I can promise you that Councilman Beazle emailed last week, and I emailed a couple months ago about it, and Matt and the police chief are discussing it. You know, that's one of the issues you always have nowadays is technology advances so fast. It's really hard to keep up with it, especially in ordinances and laws with cell phones, pictures, ages, and stuff like this. So it has to be a balance between, I think, parenting and the city. You know, I mean, it's a very tough one. And now I think that the amount of that are on the street, it's not just dangerous for them, it's dangerous for other people too. So, I mean, if Matt can verify that we have reached out, and hopefully it's not
It is definitely an issue. Absolutely, a lot of people are talking about it. I can tell you that one of the things that we were hoping that the avenue was going to be resurfaced this year, and it got delayed until next year. And in the resurfacing, it's been in the comprehensive plan to identify the outside lane as a share road, so that it would encourage anybody who's on a bicycle or on a scooter or in a golf cart or whatever to be in that outside lane, and then cars to use the inside lane. And in fact, and that's so hard for me to do because, you know, people are able to the pass or whatever. And I've been trying to do that, staying in the inside lane and leaving that outside lane for the bikes and the scooters and that kind of stuff. I know the chief has Chief, can you give us kind of an update on the legal issues surrounding this? I know it's a state law and because of the rental scooters and all that kind of stuff.
We've had these conversations many times the past several years. Oh, you guys do you need the mic for that?
Yeah, we've had these conversations for a few months now. I mean, there was a lot of calls over the summer about kids on scooters and stuff like that. There was a state law that passed in 2019. It was very specific to the rental companies that come and drop them off everywhere and let you ride them. If you read that KRS from start to finish, you'll see that it's written for rental scooters to go out in cities. We don't have any rentals here yet. That's what the law's for. When it talks about you don't need insurance, you don't need a helmet, you can ride them in the street and you can drop them on the sidewalk. It's KRS 189, 289 if you want to read it for yourself. According to the state law, you do not. Again, KRS 189, 289 if you want to read it for yourself. But that was written for the rentals. In Fort Thomas, we have kids on bikes, kids on e-scooters, kids on one wheels, kids on skateboards, kids on rollerblades, you name it. If they can invent it, they're out there on it. So we have had those educational conversations. We continue to do so. Mr. Kramer and I have talked about bringing in a company to teach bike safety, scooter safeties, sidewalk safety, you name it. And a bike lane might be in the works too. So those conversations are ongoing.
When I worked at the Fort Thomas Building in Lone back in 1800, there had been a church group that had gone bike riding, and one of the participants had gotten hit by a car, and her head went into a curb. She brought in, at that time, she was riding with a helmet. It was not popular to ride with a helmet. She brought in her helmet to the building in Lone and showed us. It was just destroyed. And had she not had her helmet on and her head had hit that curve instead, she would probably have been dead, if not seriously handicapped. And that's something that, I don't know, maybe a little exhibit that shows something like they do with drunk driving with a car that's upside down and wrecked or something. If that could be one of the things that either the schools could do or something to kind of remind people.
As a final thought, I mean, Chief and I have been working on this for months. Recently, the school and both of us put out articles in the last newsletter. But the schools have reached out to us. They're going to put on a safety fair for the students at the middle school and in the high school. So we're going to be working on that over the winter. That way that can roll out in early spring. Because they have identified, they see the issues too, so they're hoping that they can do it not only from our end, but from the school end as well, and get the kids, the students involved in setting it up and prepping for it. So that'll be coming here in the next few months as well.
Keep in mind, I'm seeing children in elementary age doing the same thing.
It'll be for the whole district.
So that's great. So like I said, I don't blame the city of Fort Thomas. We all have to participate and be aware of our driving, aware of what our kids are doing, etc. And having been a parent, you can't always be on top of every minute of what the kids do. So we need to kind of refresh that to everybody. So thank you.
That's a great topic. I know it's a big issue, and a lot of people are talking about it on Facebook, and all that's good because that gets the word out there, and it gets the parents talking to their kids to say, "Hey, don't be stupid about it. Do it safely." So all these things are important for us to try to still allow people to be able to utilize it, but to do it safely, and that's the important part. So,
on a personal note, my wife crashed one of those scooters downtown a few years ago. Wasn't going that fast. She was behind me. I didn't think we were going fast. She just went up to go on the curb and just sort of went off, and I went over the handlebars and broke her jaw. So, what's that?
I said they aren't dangerous.
No, I mean, so it's little things like they just go faster than an average scooter nowadays, right? So you got to be careful. So it could happen to anybody. I mean, I crashed my bike and had stitches in my skull, jumping stuff. I turned down a moped when I was 16. It happens, but they're just getting more and more available to everybody. So that's more people are taking notice.
Quick question for the chief: if our officers witness this weaving in and out of lanes and kind of crazy behavior on the scooters, they will address it, won't they?
We've had several of those conversations the past 20 years, not just e-scooters, bikes, you name it. Skateboards at night, rollerblades at night, you name it. We stop those folks and talk to them and try to give them the best education we can. We'll keep doing that. Not just the police, I know other parents have done that too.
Good.
That's ongoing.
Yeah, just the amount of them on the streets right now, I think.
awesome. Thank you. Anybody else like to address council?
Before I read, I just have one page. But keep in mind, I'm serious. There's Catholic schools too that have junior high kids. You mentioned the middle school, the high school, and the elementary school. There's St. Catherine and St. Thomas that have 13-year-olds as well, and some of the kids are not 13. Okay, now on to what I was really coming for. Joan Ferris, I live at 66 Bernie, and I just have a couple, 2-3 things. For one thing, for some reason, I don't know why, but the minutes from the April 17th meeting popped up on my laptop screen. I don't remember pulling it up, but it was there. And it was a meeting where people were discussing the trees that have been taken down over in Alexandria Circle. There were 3 people that spoke, at least that were mentioned in the minutes. The one talked about her concerns about the erosion and the hillside stability in that area. Another one suggested that the city create a paid position to manage the green space, more than just the appointed tree commission, but actually somebody who monitors what she called chipping away at the hillsides. The third asked what was going to happen to the resident who cut down the trees and who threw all of his yard waste down on city properties. The end of the discussion, and this was again written in the minute, Mayor Haas said that the city is looking into all of it and hope to have a solution soon. So that was 6 months ago. So since it popped up, I was just curious how the matter was resolved. Was a solution found? Were there any repercussions or penalties to the homeowner?
That particular property you're referencing, I looked up, and he's got 3 acres. And so anything that dropped was not on city property, it was still on his ground. And I'm not, justifying it or saying he did a good thing, but I don't think there's a whole lot, that we could do.
We had the state come up and review the property, review the type of trees that were on the property. He had saved a number of the trees, the good trees that were on there, and took down a lot. What the state told us was that most of what he took down was invasive species, that it wasn't a problem. He did lead the trunks of the trees up to a certain height, and the state actually said you can really go either way. You can either let those green back out a little bit, or you can cut them all the way down and let them come. He said either way. So we've had conversations with the property owner, the state people talked to the property owner, developed a plan on how to maintain the rest of the hillside in the future, and it was on his property, so it was addressed. He wanted to get the view, and he had a right to do that based on his property. I don't know, Matt, if you know anything further on that.
So the answer is yes, we did discuss it and things were done.
Absolutely.
Okay, what was left with, these weren't words of life, we'll get to the bottom of it, and it sounds as if you did, so I appreciate that, thank you. Sure. The second one, I'm curious about an agenda item that's on Wednesday's Planning and Zoning Board meeting, and the only reason I say that, it simply says combination of fully deeded lots with existing lot descriptions. So I'm curious what that means. I'm wondering if this is a precursor for getting approval to make a zoning change in the months ahead, coming. It seems as if conversations and zoning plans are taking place behind the scenes during what's called the zoning discussion.
Before you read the rest of the paragraph, that's completely incorrect. What that is about is when a property owner, like on my property was 2 lots, when I purchased it, I combined them into 1 lot. That's what that's talking about. What they want to do is talk to Planning Commission. Historically, Planning Commission has approved residential lots that would be combining to put a residential house on them. And the question is, does Planning Commission really need to review those type of plans? So that is just a discussion for Planning Commission to see. In the staff's opinion, I think right now is that really is a staff function, as long as it's a very clean 2 residential lots combining for a single house, or just combining lots because there's a vacant lot next door and you purchased it from somebody else. That's what that discussion is about. It has nothing to do with the zoning, comprehensive zoning.
It was a little bit of a thing.
Somebody else had brought that to me, and it was a little, we should have been clearer on that.
And Matt, we're one of the few cities that has the planning commission go through that process. Most of them are staff decisions.
Great answer, I appreciate that. Okay, third one, this is quick as well. The proposed ordinance regarding the grow grants is, in my mind, definitely a step in the right direction. Just having specifics spelled out is a really good move. I'm also, again, personally, a huge fan of the 50-50 shared responsibility. My main comment is that at the finance meeting a week or 2 ago, a suggestion was made that just a very few words that would benefit the business be added to the requirements for applications for structural repair of a building. Since the GROW grants are intended to benefit the businesses, a business and not a landlord should be the beneficiary of the grant. That seems spelled out in the grant. This was brought up at last month's council meeting prior to the actual draft being read, perhaps it was written, but tweaked and read. But the few clear and well-defined words were presented by a citizen at the Finance Committee. I know not every suggestion from the community can be implemented, but I am disappointed that this small but really powerful suggestion seemed to have been discounted without discussion. It wasn't going to change the structural piece, be it foundation or, an example that I would give is if, for instance, someone owns this building and the steps were all broken and you couldn't get in safely, that's structural, that fixes the building, but it certainly helps the business as well. And it seemed as if last month the council, it's like, well, we shouldn't be fixing the building because the business doesn't own the building. But adding those few words, what did she say? That would benefit the business. Doesn't say you can't use it for structural, but it's not solely for the building owner. There was mention, I can't remember who, and I didn't want to watch the whole Finance Committee meeting again on the YouTube, but someone suggested, well, the Ensign building is kind of going bad and fixing that would make it good for the 915. I'm not sure that that's the intention, because if the 915 is benefiting as a business, because the building next door is kind of nicer, that seems a stretch to me.
Well, we did discuss that thoroughly during the Finance Committee and made a decision to present the document that we have tonight. But
right,
we did listen to those suggestions.
I've heard this a couple of times where the point of this whole thing is to support the businesses only. And Mr. Pendry, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we were implying that at all. It's either the business or the business owner. Because the intent of a big part of the intent of the ordinance is to improve property value, and that's one of the things you have to explain. And improve a property value is specifically with the landlord and the owner of the building who invested, and purchased the property in the city. So I don't think we were just focusing on the business itself if it was different than the actual property owner.
I thought we were.
I don't know where, I've heard that a couple times.
I thought
I've
the
never
GROW
applied
grant
that.
was for the business.
It's for the business or the business owner. I mean,
The business owner, but property owner and business owner aren't necessarily the same.
Correct, when we were trying to work through this, I specifically made it available to either or.
Well, that's what I'm,
Yeah.
either
so
or.
You just disagree, it should just be for the business though, right?
I'm saying it could benefit both, but not exclusively the building owner. That's
Correct. Yeah, it benefits either or.
Well, I'm saying it should be both or the business. That's, yeah, I thought it was a good suggestion the way it was presented, and I'm disappointed that it was discounted or discarded. Thank you.
Anybody else like to address council?
Yes, hi, I'm Sharon McKnight, 62 Miller Lane, and I'm glad she brought up the agenda for the Planning Commission. Thank you for getting it out in a timely manner, because it gives you time to figure out what it's about before you go to the meeting. And my question is pertaining to the first part of it. It says, it reads 10 North Fort Thomas Avenue, Creon Capital LLC owner, conveyance of a portion of the property to City of Fort Thomas. So I'm assuming that's the property behind the subway building, correct? Is that what?
That's been taken off the agenda for this month.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That first part was taken off?
I believe it was updated, but maybe.
Oh, I didn't see it.
It's something that, actually, from last week, so it was a last minute change.
Oh, so the only thing you're gonna have on it is what she was discussing about the deeds.
I don't remember what was on the agenda. That might be it. That might have been the only thing.
Well, first of all, the parking lot back there looks great. Thank you. It was overdue and it looks wonderful. So thank you, thank you, thank you. But was the portion of it just for the parking lot part of it? Is that what that was? Because I went back to look at prior meetings and I didn't see any discussion about that. The city getting that property behind Subway.
Yeah, we were just looking to add on to the parking lot itself.
And that's it? Nothing more than
For
that?
right now,
Okay, but that never happened?
not yet.
Okay,
We're still
so-
on we're still talking about it.
Okay, so does the city own the whole parking lot now back there?
Majority of it, not the whole parking lot. There's still a couple of little sections that are owned by businesses,
Gotcha.
but yes, the majority of it is.
Oh, okay.
I think 0.7 acres or something.
Okay, the
Of just
parking lot's not 7 acres.
0.7 acres.
Okay,
But
thank
just,
you.
yeah.
Okay, you're going into the hillside.
Decimal 7. And
Yeah.
then that's not including the other area there.
Okay. Also, when we were back there admiring the work, the parking lot, I noticed they're working on the back of the buildings back there. Do they have to go through the same procedures and guidelines in front of the design review board as like when they're working on the front of the building? So they keep with the character of the heritage of the historic heritage of the historic district?
I don't think so.
So the back doesn't matter
Pretty sure it is.
for a historic district?
If we follow the National Historic Guidelines, the back doesn't matter, but I don't know specifically the answer to your question.
That's a gray area, though, because it's normally what's visible, you know,
Right.
from the street, but then this is gonna be visible from a public,
That's right.
space as well, so it's a kind of.
We'll look into that.
Well, good, I'm glad you do, because let's keep the historic, let's preserve that kind, the front and the back, okay? Well, thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Anyone else like to address council?
The design review board, in their guidelines, it says that you are not permitted to, paint brick that has not been previously painted before now in a historic zone, which that is, I believe, and of that historic zone.
I don't believe it says you can't.
Well, that's
I
the
think it's-
loophole that, Mr. Barton is here, so it is strongly discouraged. I say you can make the rule, you don't. Strongly discouraged because you kind of want to.
I think it's read as more encouraged not to, and that's why the property there on the avenue is we're looking at just because of the design board, but it does not say that you cannot do that, from what I remember.
Anyone else like to address council?
It's just that, to me, they might not put a phrase in there. Look, it's like if you want.
Elizabeth Allegrini, 45 Lockwood Place. I want to revisit last month's meeting regarding the deer. To Mr. Beazle, I have a question for you. You mentioned that you had a representative from the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife who was going to come up and talk with them. You had pulled it off the table, so you had canceled that. So I'm just curious who it was who was going to come and talk.
It was not me, there was a communication with somebody else. With the state. And I don't know who they were talking to with the state.
So this person lined up to come to talk because you had submitted that you had a deer ordinance?
There was communication from a resident of Fort Thomas, citizen of Fort Thomas, who has interest in the deer ordinance that brought it to me. Said they've had communications with the state, and the state would be willing to come up and have conversations with this council if they self it.
But I believe your words were that you had canceled this person, so you know who that person was who was going to be coming up.
I did not have communication with them.
Okay. All right, so my next question along the same lines is, you also mentioned that there was a report from the same department regarding the deer, that after reading the report, and that's why you brought this forward, along with the police report that was.
I only referenced one report, and that was from the police.
That's not true.
Okay.
You said you had.
I only had visualization of one report, and that was from the chief of police. It was for accidents for the last, I don't know how many years.
So you might want to go back and rewatch that, because does anybody else remember that there being 2 reports, Lisa?
Here's what I'm going to suggest. I guess honestly, this is turning into a little bit of cross-examination, and I'm somewhat familiar with that. I'd like to suggest that if that's a conversation you want to have, we should let Jeff go dig up the records or look at his conversation that he had with you this last week. So he can be prepared and he can speak intelligently. I just want him to have an opportunity to know what you're going to talk about, be prepared, so he can answer you accurately and 100% true.
He was asked for the report from the organization. He said he had one from the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, and an open records request was filed, and there was no report to be had. So, that's fine. We can go back and review the minutes. I've done that. I just think we need to work on just being as transparent as we can, and that's all we're asking for. It shouldn't be, that we're working from a citizen said they want this and, that kind of stuff. If you're bringing something forward you're a council person bringing something forward, you need to have,
Well, officially, there's nothing brought forward. There was research starting to be done with staff and myself. There was nothing brought forward. Mr. Bowman's the one who brought it up there at council.
I brought it up because it was in
Right.
the email on Friday night, an amended ordinance to, usually if it's in your packet,
It was
a topic for the following.
It was not a packet. It was an email that specifically said it was there for possible discussion on that Monday. It was not in the council packet, or it would have been on the agenda.
But it was already at the stage of a revised ordinance. Normally, there'd be a committee meeting, a committee would make a recommendation, the recommendation would come before council, council would act on it, and then an ordinance would be drafted. It was just kind of a little discombobulated process.
And I've sat here through several of these meetings when I've heard that saying, let the process. So the process it can describe, it needs to go to committee. And if we're not following the process for these things, then, which then leads me to my next question. Okay, we can go back and revisit, and I'll give them the opportunity to do that, and that's fair enough. But there's a lot of, I'll call it misinformation, for lack of a better word, regarding the splash park. I know that 2 council members on the committee, the Parks and Recreation Committee, had a conversation, and they said that there was never a vote taken at the committee level for the splash park. It was my understanding that it was taken and it did come out of committee. So can anybody confirm, did it come out of committee? Did it get voted on for the splash park?
The approval of the splash park, no, did not come out of committee.
Okay,
It came out, the approval to move forward to get drawings and a budget did. But the actual process to move forward, start writing checks and digging holes, did not. I don't know if it needs to come out of committee to pass the budget.
I think 500,000.
It was a motion made at a council meeting.
Right,
That was
in
before
March.
me that approved staff to move forward with construction drawings and to get a bid to see how much it would cost. And that was not a committee meeting.
But approval to move forward with the splash park did not come out of committee, because it's the budget, to look into the budget did.
Okay. So where are we on the splash park? Can we get an update? Or not?
We have received a bid, and the staff is still discussing it with the mayor.
Yeah, because there's just so much misinformation, as, Debbie stated, and it's like.
Yeah, there is a lot of misinformation out there,
Right.
not from the city, about the splash park. You are correct.
So, okay, all right, thanks.
If you want to read, whenever, I've got my sentence ready, if you want to do away with the minutes.
Do I need to proofread the
Let's just
grammar?
do away with
Just a second, Ken, and make sure nobody else from the public, is everybody good? All right, Ken, would you like to?
Okay, I would like the amendment to include a sentence that said, Mr. Bowman stated his concerns over proposed changes to the permitted deer hunting hours. The current hours are a half hour before sunrise to 10 a.m. The proposed hours are a half hour before sunrise to a half hour after sunset.
If you need, do you need a motion?
And then,
There's a motion already made.
is that replacing the first sentence?
Yes.
Okay. So we would strike the first sentence of that paragraph. Which the first sentence can also ask about the proposed deer hunting ordinance changes.
Yes.
So we'll strike that,
Yes.
add that.
I have a question, how do we change wording from minutes that have already been done?
They have not been approved.
Yeah, that's a quirky thing. Nothing's official today.
You guys stay with your mics.
Yeah, preferably in the future is if council, if they do have any changes, if you can send it to us ahead of time, that way we can have it drafted maybe both ways, just at least where everybody can see it.
Well, here, I'm handing it to Melissa.
So you already made that motion, Ken, is that right? Is that where we're in the process? To approve the minutes with.
I'm making a motion to amend the minutes, replacing the first sentence with the one I just articulated.
Is there a second? I'll second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, moving right along. We are down to reports of boards, committees, and commissions. Report from the Finance Committee on the Grow Grant Ordinance.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. The update here, so the Finance Committee met, before September's council meeting to discuss, we wanted to establish the Grow Grant as an ordinance historically since its inception in 2018. Wow. Since its conception in 2018, it has not been codified as an ordinance. So we were in agreement that was a great thing to do. The city drafted the language. We ran up against time in the Finance Committee meeting prior to last month's council meeting, and I felt like the issue deserves some more thought, and it deserved for us to meet on it one more time. So we did that on October the 5th. Jeff and I were present. Lisa could not be there, but I spoke with her at length beforehand. We had some good involvement from the community. I feel pretty strongly, I thought the city did a great job with the language. I've said this at the Finance Committee meeting, what I really want to avoid is writing ourselves into a hole. This is a foundation is what this is. It's the first draft of the ordinance. We need to get it codified. I have great trust in the city's oversight of this process, and not only that, but it's going to be very thoroughly reviewed every single year. And so that's something we can all look forward to when Matt comes before council and presents his review of the Grow Grant program. And if we need to make any tweaks, we can. But as it's written, I think it's very well written. We did make one small change, a recommendation coming out of committee, which was, and this was well received, the language referencing blight, we thought was not really appropriate or necessary. And so thank you, Joan, for bringing that to our attention. We replaced, and I don't have it directly in front of me, I think we replaced blight with improved property aesthetics. Something very close to that, if not exactly word for word that. And outside of that, that was the tweak, and Jeff and I and Lisa were on board, and I think in agreement and excited about it. And so that's my recommendation from the Finance Committee is that we move forward with the language with that small tweak.
All right, do we need action on this, or is it's down at the bottom? Okay. All right, any questions? Great, thank you for the report. We're down to reports of officers. Fire Department report, Chief Hager.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So on November 6th is the time change, and that's historically the time that we recommend everyone that they change your clock, change your batteries, or smoke detectors. If you read the news, you've seen in the past couple of weeks in Northern Kentucky, residential fires are really increasing right now, so everyone just be aware of that. Just have good working smoke detectors. That's all I got.
Any questions for the chief?
Word of caution about the dry spell we're into and outdoor fires.
Yeah, so we're waiting. They keep putting out red flag warnings. They have not lifted the burn ban, which is technically set to expire November 1st. So we're going to keep our eye on it. If that does get extended, it'll be out on every social media platform because that comes from the Department of Forestry in the state.
Chief, I have a question for you. What do you do about the smoke detectors that have the 10-year battery? Are they?
Yeah, so as long as they're still working, they're good. However, we usually recommend that at that 10-year mark, just go ahead and replace it because we can't replace those batteries. It would be a minor battery.
When you be working, you test them and still
test them, push the button, and working.
I had a question about that the other day.
And if there's any question about any smoke detectors, call the station. Any one of my staff will help anybody out, including come change your batteries for you if you're not able to do that. So.
Thank you.
Members, Chief, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Police Department. Chief.
Thanks, Mayor. Since we last met, we had our Merchants and Music Festival here in Taylor Park. Very well attended, very crowded. Always a big night for PD and fire. We're always happy when it goes well, and it's nice to come back here in October and say that we didn't have any major police-related issues at the Merchants Meeting Festival. Big crowd, big turnout. When the band ended at 10:30, a lot of people leaving the park at the same time. Everything seemed to go extremely well for the police and the fire. So I just like working on that. Coming up, we have our DEA Drug Take Back Weekend, October 29th from 10 to 2 at 130 North Fort Thomas. We'll have a drive-through lane available again for used prescription drugs that were no longer needed. So partnering with the Lions Club again, taking old prescription glasses and old prescription drugs. So we'll be there October 29th, 10 to 2. That's all I have.
Great, thanks, Steve. Entertain a motion.
Move to receive file.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. City Administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things here, and hopefully we'll take my thunder on, but I'm going to say them again anyway. We did finish 18 North parking lot. That was added to our street program. We're able to, with the savings from the street program, we're able to add that in and get that done a lot quicker than we were expecting. So that came just in time for snow removal, because I don't think we could have removed snow in the way, the condition that it was in. So we were able to do that, and it looks really nice there. We did sign a ladder truck contract as approved last month. Tim and I added some penalty language if the build went long. I think it was $1,000 a week or something. It's still a 29-month build. So,
3 years.
But we were able to get a little bit of language in there just to kind of protect the city, move forward, just in case it takes a long time to build. Merchants and Music. This was obviously my first year being on staff here. It went excellent. The city staff on this event, if you're not up here 4 days before watching, it's pretty incredible. Between Public Works, Fire, PD, it's an incredible, and general government, it's an incredible undertaking, and it went really, really well. Police and fire were there in full force and handling everything coming out. It was very well ran, and we had a lot of people, so it's not like it just, wasn't much going on. PD and fire had a few incidents that they took care of during it, but everything went very smooth. And if you see the staff around, please thank them for that, because there were a lot of tired people that Monday who still had to come in and start cleaning up. So I appreciate all the staff's work on that, and the council's allowing us to do that. The only other thing is just the Halloween hours is the 31st from 6 to 8 p.m. Depending on anybody's questions, that's all there.
Don't forget the volunteers too as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Not that you do, you know what I mean? We all appreciate them.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We had a ton of volunteers this year, and they worked their tails off all day long.
I've been to quite a few events, and I was on the Renaissance board for a while, and I even told Janet and Sam, I know that I've seen one from the outside run as smooth as this one did this year. It was just very well organized and very well run. It was a pleasure. I got a lot of compliments walking through the crowd from days afterwards, and I said, "You're welcome." Took full credit.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up the volunteers.
I have one unrelated question for you. I noticed and was happy to see on the website today the calendar is like on page 1, and it gives you an option to sync your calendar if you have Google Calendar or some other options. And that's a step in the right direction. But I hope we can still advance the capability to where somebody can just say, I'm interested in zoning, or we're interested in whatever, recreation, whatever it may be, and then opt in just with a regular email address to where it would just shoot out to the email, because not everybody would have a Google Calendar to sync, and not everybody would want every event that is going to sync with their calendar. But I was thrilled to see the progress. So it looks like we're taking steps in that direction, correct?
We're getting there. Yeah. After I got a lot of information out, then I started getting the complaints that it's too much, and I appreciate it. We'll keep working on it.
Thanks, man, for what.
There are ways to do that. We can categorize them somehow, and then you can choose the category. I think it's neat. It's great. It pulls everything in, but yeah, there's so much there. It's like every Wednesday I have to come to the farmer's market because it comes up on my calendar, and I don't necessarily need to know that.
Yeah, or every other.
But right now it's overkill. But at least it's out there, and we're working on trying to figure out a way to.
Yeah, just where somebody can just put in an email address and say I'm concerned with these areas, but
and they have it just shoot out to their email instead of syncing a calendar.
I think it's still gonna be syncing calendar, but I give you a category choice, I think. But
We're researching some other options.
I mean, there's a huge segment of our population that's going to be left out of that if you have to sync your calendar.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we're looking at some other things. I'm waiting till the slow month. But I have done some research, and luckily Sam had done some research before I got here on some other communication programs. So we're researching that now, and I'm hoping by the end of the year to have another idea on how to communicate with them better.
Thank you.
Yeah. I didn't say which year.
Yeah.
Any word on when the
which year?
city building is going to be city building?
Yeah.
Not on record.
We are down to old business.
We need to get, we do need to get Roger in that building one time, December 30th. He has earned a right to sit in this chair.
My suggestion is the Christmas one.
At least maybe an open house. Maybe. That's no promises. No promises.
It's a great suggestion.
Any new business?
I have some new business. In response to all the communication we've had recently about conflicts with scooters on the sidewalks, etc., there is a bicycle bill that Jason Reeser has donated 500 of these to go on handlebars of bicycles. And so I'll pass them off to the city, and I hope we can do some promotion and make them available from the city clerk's office. Maybe distribution through the schools too. It needs to get out there, and it beats a blank, and it's kind of like our beacons for the crosswalks. There was a learning curve. I mean, we put them up, and it was so frustrating seeing them not be used, but then eventually they started being used. But I have one of these on both of my bicycles, and it does alert people as you approach that something's coming. So we have 500 of these, thanks to Jason Reeser from Reeser Bicycle, and he withheld a few, so they're available at his store as well, just for the asking.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought
That's
it was
really
awesome.
cool.
It was great of him to-
Those are like
to redo it.
$25 a piece.
And then one other quick piece of new business, we're gonna need to assign a new OKI rep when I'm no longer serving. And at the last.
Bourbon? I'm in. Okay, bourbon?
Oh,
it's not, no, never mind. Never mind, Ben, you can have that.
But at the last meeting, last week, they had awarded $60 million to 9 counties of federal money for a lot of projects. And they said that this next year is going to be even larger. And so I hope we keep our eye on it. And then, you have to write the application, but maybe the road diet on Grand Avenue, maybe some Route 8 improvements could be, jointly have to apply for with Dayton or whatever. But I just gave Melissa the list of all the projects that they approved. And there weren't that many that they turned down. And they did also, incidentally, just for your information, if you're going to write a request, they mentioned that everything had to be a 20% match minimum, and they have a scoring system, and if you say, we'll do a 30% match or 40% match if you're not asking for 20, it helps your scoring a lot. That's all I've got on OKI, but I just thought I want to bring it to your attention because we need to start thinking about that, and they're going to email the paperwork, which I'll forward to you, to designate a new rep.
Thank you. And thank you for your work on the development.
Absolutely.
That was a great.
Yeah, and Ken, thanks for your work on PIL these years, because that is such an important group. And yeah, we've got some opportunities.
There is. Next year's going to be bigger, they say. We got 69 million that they doled out this year.
The road diet, the roundabout, there's a lot of things we can go for there. And those things aren't that expensive. So we should be able to get it.
And if we could do a collaborative application for Route 8, for that section that we want to,
And hopefully South Bank will help us with that too, because that gives us, I think, gives us a little step up as well.
Okay, we just need to be proactive on that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, guys, for bringing that up.
All right, we are to Finance Committee reports on disbursements.
Reported disbursements September.
There you go.
Reported disbursements September 14th to October 12th. General Fund, $357,902.77. Public Works KDOT Fund, $52,634.33. CBD Revitalization, $130,983.69. Waste fees, $102,568.76. Police and Fire Pension Fund, $645,652.62. We, the undersigned members of the Finance Committee, recommend that warrants numbered 11857 through 12012 be approved and the treasurer be authorized to issue checks for their payment. Mr. Pendry, chairperson, Mr. Beazle, member, Ms. Kelly, member.
Entertain a motion. Will approve. Second. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Kelly? Aye. Mr. Pendry?
Aye.
Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
Mr. Beazle?
Aye.
Mr. Blau?
Aye.
Mr. Peter?
Aye. Read down to ordinance, resolutions, and orders. Ordinance 011-2022.
Ordinance 011-2022, an ordinance recognizing the already existing City of Fort Thomas Road Grant Program as well as the establishment of certain funding therefore and operational procedures.
Before we vote on this, I'd like to discuss this.
It's a first reading.
It's first reading?
Yes.
I'd still like to discuss it, right? Do we have to discuss it now or before the next reading? Will be appropriate, because once it gets to the next reading, it's second.
Discussion usually comes second reading.
Yeah, it's appropriate to discuss it at the second reading.
Okay.
It's still where you're going to end up deciding.
Okay.
All right, ordinance 012.
Ordinance 012-2022, an ordinance establishing the position of building inspector, zoning administrator, along with the compensation for such position.
You know, we say that now. Roger says we should talk about it now. If we wait till next month.
I was thinking the same thing, that if this discussion was going to involve any changes, that they could be done before next month. So I thought it was, if you're going to have a discussion, I'm very glad you brought it up.
Yeah, I think I folded it a little bit. So I would prefer, there's 3 people here that would like to have a discussion about it. I think that's only fair regardless.
I don't think it's inappropriate to discuss it now. Typically, we go to the second.
Yeah, I mean, if you give it the second, things are written, and all of a sudden it slows it down from ever becoming a.
That's not an issue you want to run into.
Yeah, I don't want to run into that issue because I still think this program has a lot of positives to it. I just have some discrepancies. I think I discussed before. There are a few things on here that I don't believe should be in this. I'm not sure I'll get anywhere with it. And I really appreciate the effort Ben and Jeff and everybody's put forward, especially you, Matt Wright, because I think it's great. But when we start talking about foundation stuff and HVAC moving, these are landlord problems. I believe we use the small businesses as almost fronts to help, as an excuse to help the landlords make money. And I just think that we use the money that of taxpayer dollars to fix up their buildings and things they should already be doing.
Adam, if I can.
Well, hold on, let me finish. And I thought there should be some kind of scale or sliding scale to this in order to who would qualify based on their income or amount of money they have or buildings they own. And if we have this much money in our surplus, we are subsidizing businesses with taxpayer dollars. Why are we continuing to raise taxes? Why aren't we lowering them? We should be lowering taxes if we have so much money that we're fixing structural stuff that landlord. And some of these landlords are some of the wealthiest people in Northern Kentucky. So it doesn't make sense to me that we're helping them out and then yet still raising their taxes. Because none of this stuff is light. We're not gentrifying any areas in town. We don't have, we say that other cities do this, but other cities are trying to improve poverty-ridden areas. We don't have that. So you can find any city in the country you want to say they're doing something. And I just don't see why we're throwing this kind of money at things that I don't believe are necessary for the small business. Unless that person is
With 60,000 is what we're talking about.
Sure. Okay. I understand the amount.
Well, you just said we shouldn't low taxes because of the $60,000 thing.
Well, that's what's 100% correct. But if we have the capability of giving, well, this is just 60,000. We gave 120,000 3 different times.
I know, that's.
Well, but we gave
that's
$850,000,
ARPA money and that's
we gave $850,000 forgivable loan, $1.6 million to a parking lot that was supposed to offset the cost of the. Well, we've given a lot of money away lately, and yet we continue to raise taxes and solve for businesses. So I just think that it should be something that we should have more structure over it. You know, it's not that I don't trust people doing their large job and create the structure for them.
Well, this when it started, that's where we came from.
It's still tax time.
It's still from the rental. It's still tower.
So
money.
it's the rental money.
It's still tower money, and that's in North Street.
That's what's sitting on, so it came from.
Yeah, but that's still taxpayer dollars. You know what I mean? No matter where it was now. Yeah. So, you know, it's, I mean, still like saying the investment money we have, and it's not their money, it's still it.
No, we're hard to scoff behind because we get this other source.
Sure, no, and I get it. I'm for most of the stuff, the ADA compliant, the stuff on the outside, it's just when it comes to the structure of HVAC and moving, I just think that dips a little farther.
Adam, I think I might be wrong, but I believe that you're the only one of us 6 that has those concerns. And so, we voiced them. Does anybody else have input?
I don't have any concerns, but Adam and I talked about this a few weeks ago too, and I appreciate your comments, but they haven't changed, so I appreciate your loyalty to those comments. But I just, one thing, I wish you could have done it on the finance committee meeting, the second one, because Matt did a really good job of explaining some of these, the HVAC, for example, something that came up and we talked at length about some of the potential foundational repairs and how that's going to be vetted during the process. And it really, I'll just put me at ease completely. And so, you know, like I said, I don't want to box us in and write us out an opportunity with semantics right now. Your points are very valid, and I just, you know, my stance, and I think the finance committee's stance was, this is an excellent starting point. It's better than a starting point, quite frankly. So let's get it codified, get it approved, and let's review it after the first year and see if we can always improve. If we can, we certainly will. But I'm very comfortable with the language.
I know everybody is. I just thought I'd get my word out, maybe change a mind or two. You don't know until you have discussion. My mind has been changed several times, you know, over the course of my lifetime. You know what I mean? And discussion is healthy. And I'm not disappointed in anybody or don't disagree with anything. Sometimes we just don't agree on things like this.
I do want to clarify one thing. It does indicate the board council hereby establishes proceeds from the self-power rental so long as they exist, or if otherwise ordered late. So it's definitely key to the $60,000 received self-power rental. If that were to go away, it's set up essentially so that the council would have to decide to continue that other proceeds.
But conversely, if the cell tower lease were renewed and their rent went up, would we still just maintain that 60,000, right? That would not.
That's the way it's right.
Yeah, I would even.
Yeah, the revenue is actually more than 60,000. It's a little higher, but 60,000 is just an easy number to budget.
Personally, it doesn't matter if it comes from a cell tower or
Yeah,
taxpayer dollars. I mean, it was nice that that was the idea that started the conversation. You need that in there for my personal mind. You know what I mean? I like the grant. I think it's great. I think if we can help people, we should. You know, I mean, I just think there's some things that people might feel comfortable with. That's all.
I want to echo Ben's, you know, we can't sit here and anticipate every time. Again, we've got a great track record with how this has been operated. And, you know, I don't want language that's so specific that there's something that might come down the line that's so obvious we should do. But because it's something in the ordinance we can't do, I don't want to get caught in that. I want to trust the program. It's been operated by staff, so.
All right, thank you all. And the municipal revenue 2022.
Municipal order MO 2022, a municipal order authorizing the mayor to enter into an interlocal agreement with Campbell County Fiscal Court for animal control services for the city of Fort Thomas and other cities within Campbell County.
Entertaining motion. Move approved. For a second?
Second. And thank you for that. Bringing on help was great.
Excuse me, I have a motion and a second. Does this need roll call or this? No, it does not. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Municipal order MO 21.
Municipal order MO 21/2022, and municipal order appointing Leonard Beck as a member of the City of Fort Thomas Tree Commission for the City of Fort Thomas, Campbell County, Kentucky, and setting his term of office.
Move approval.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Hey, two things real quick. I'm sorry, I might have skipped one here. I just want to thank Matt and the mayor for getting some help in there. The new staff to help Kevin out. That is an unbelievably overwhelming position. And when I go in there and take the time to help you with some things, the amount of paperwork on his desk and Melissa's and the surrounding stuff is pretty immense. So I think that is great. You know, we've talked about this before, and I'm hoping one day, we've mentioned it before. We got appointed a new gentleman, Leonard, back to the tree commission. I think this is just because the last gentleman fell off. We met him last time, right?
Yes.
And then, if we could have, I didn't, maybe I overlooked it. I'd love a little information about the people we're appointing in the future. I think we talked about it.
He'll be awesome. He's very.
No, I'm not saying he's not, and I've never denied anybody for it. It's just for our personal knowledge. I think being on council here would be nice to make sure that we are, we understand who's on there, so we can speak highly of them in their backgrounds. So,
You're right. We'll do that in the future. Thank you.
All right. Entertain a motion for adjournment. Move to adjourn. Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?